Ma'am, you can start the session, ma'am. Please start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
A very good evening to one and all present. It takes immense pleasure in welcoming you all to this wonderful workshop on hypothesis testing conducted by the University of Madras and Madras University Commerce Alumni Association in collaboration with Sri Shankarlal Sundar Bai Fashion Jain College for Women. I feel honored in welcoming Dr. R. Shanti Ma'am, Professor and Head, Department of Commerce, University of Madras, A.G. Vijayanarayanan, Sir, Assistant Professor, PG and Research Department of Commerce, DG, Vice College Autonomous. I also extend a warm welcome to the organizing committee, Dr. C.K. Deepa Ma'am, Associate Professor and Head, PG and Department of Commerce, Sri Shankarlal Sundar Bai Fashion Jain College, P.T. Rose, SRS Research Scholar, Department of Commerce. We also extend a warm welcome to our Principal, Dr. S. Bhatmavati Ma'am, our Vice Principal, Dr. S. Rukmani Ma'am. Now over to the session. This session is about hypothesis testing and its role in research. As research scholars and students and faculties, we all indulge in research in our everyday life. But when it comes to hypothesis testing, we always get a confusion of how to frame the hypothesis, actually what hypothesis is, and where to frame it and how to frame it. And this session will really give an intense knowledge about it. Let me introduce the resource persons of the day. Dr. Haridayal Sharma, sir. He is not new to us. He has hosted a couple of sessions with us. Dr. Haridayal Sharma is an assistant professor in the PG and Research Department of Commerce at DG Vaishnava College, Autonomous. He holds a doctorate in commerce from Nagalatha University and a strong academic background, including MCOM, MPhil, MSM, MBA, and SET qualifications, with over 24 years of experience. He has contributed significantly to green marketing, consumer behavior, and digital commerce. He has guided MPhil and PhD scholars and undertaken UGC-funded projects and delivered expert sessions on research methods and data analysis. He serves as a life member in several professional bodies. He also plays an active role in academic and administrative initiatives at his institution. So we are happy to have you in this session. And we would also like to extend a warm welcome to Dr. A.S. Nagalatha ma'am. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Commerce at C.Kandasami Naidu College for Men, Chennai. He holds PhD from the University of Madras along with MPhil, MCOM, and NET qualifications. With over 20 years of teaching experience at the undergraduate level and 18 years at the postgraduate level, he has guided 8 MPhil scholars. Currently, he supervises 6 PhD candidates, of whom one has been awarded a PhD, one has submitted their thesis, and 4 have submitted their synopsis. We feel really honored in having you both for this session. Over to you, sir and ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving a brief introduction. I'm audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yes.
I owe my pranams to my gurus, Professor Ranganatham sir, former Registrar University of Madras, my guru, Dr. Professor R. Shanti madam, who have given this opportunity to me, my colleagues, Dr. Vijayanarayanan sir and Haridayal Sharma sir. I thank all the organizers who given this opportunity to us. The session is about hypothesis testing and its role in research. Normally, when you start a research, the hypothesis automatically inbuilt in it. Like you cannot predict what should be an output. Okay, so your prediction, if it is come true, it is something. Sometimes it could be a biased one. Okay, your prediction is supposed to be very tested and to be known the truth and fact behind the fact. For that, we need a hypothesis as part of this. It is just an assumption of claiming a statement. This statement is supposed to connect with your research objective. Then only it could help you out to know what is the result could be a part of your objective climbing. Okay, so we'll go to these cases. Normally, many people says hypothesis is a kind of a tentative generalized statement to be validated, which remains to be tested. And in good and hard also said it's a proposition which can be put to test this determination in a validation. So in these cases, we are looking into two different concepts. It should be tested and should be validated. And it is a generalized statement. It may change in future too. Like what are the statements that you're climbing now? It may have some sort of alteration in future. Okay, so that normally statement, whatever that you fix, it should connect and answerable to your objective. So it could be modified based on your results and based on the with comfortableness, or we can prove your values in that cases. I request Haridayal Sharma sir to add his own point in this. Sir, your voice is not audible, sir. You are in mute.
Now it's okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, before starting the talk, let me first of all thank the organizers, especially from Madras University, Dr. Shanti, and of course, Triple S Jain College. They have taken a wonderful initiative with respect to, talking about the nuances of research methodology. So in that series, like today, there is a, discussion with respect to hypothesis testing. So as Madam said, we can say it is a kind of proposed explanation. Hypothesis is a kind of proposed explanation or an assumption that needs to be tested. Like there is a talk, like should we have an hypothesis or not? Like even in, I do not know whether I've spoken in the same platform or not. Hypothesis is like a lighthouse of olden days. For example, what is the purpose of lighthouse? In olden days, it used to show that there is going to be some land nearby. Yeah, so where sailors, when they were traveling, the purpose of lighthouse was, they will get to know that there is some land nearby, there is some shore, right? Whether it is the actual shore or whether the land they wanted to go or not, that's a different thing. But at least they will not get lost. They will know, yeah, something nearby, there is some shore. It may be the intended place, or they might have reached some unintended place. So, hypothesis, in my view, is similar to that. It gives some idea, tentative idea, whether it is accepted, whether you have presumed perfectly, all those things are secondary. But hypothesis will give you a direction. It will give a kind of where you are not lost in the plethora of data. So it gives a kind of a a kind of, we can say, confidence to move forward. It may be accepted, it may be rejected, anything. That's a different point of view, but it's a starting point. It gives where a researcher can fall back. Yeah. So it reminds me of that quotation also given by, I think, Thomas Alva Edison. I heard that when he found that bulb, it was the 100th time that he found. Somebody taunted him. Then he said, 99 times I have not failed. I found out how not to make the bulb 99 times. So 99 times his hypothesis was rejected. 100th time he found that. So at least 99 times we know this is not this. So even knowing not something is, inching nearer to knowing something. So that is my take, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As you said rightly, sir. So normally the good hypothesis that whatever we want to make it out in the research, it should be a solid question. It should be a direct question which have a relationship or which have a connection with your study as part of it. For example, when you are looking into metro station, so normally you say the increase in the service of metro station will reduce the pollution in their particular city. Okay, for example, Chennai city, to take it in that way. So it should be a solid question to know whether the pollution rate has come down with the help of a metropolitan railway service in that cases. So this must be a solid question. Should a testing or maybe an assumption should connect it to your research. Second one, you should have a proper background research for this. Normally, you should check the concepts, whether this hypothesis connected with the real concept where there is a correlation between the two variables and the conceptualize whatever that you've drawn from the particular study. And third one, absolutely, it must be testable. As the normally my professor Ranganathan sir used to raise a question from us. He said by the time the student who scored highest marks in maths is also able to score good marks in other subject. Okay, so normally we have to test the variable where it should be marks measurable, and the same way the other thing, the performance of the other subject is also measurable. So we could compare. So it must be a quantitative one where you term everything, the variables or the claim of hypothesis must be measurable. That's very important. And theoretically, it should be relative. See, when you keep on exercising, your weight will get reduced. Okay, it must be connected to some sort of theory, and it should explain the independent variable and dependent variable impact. Okay, so this is how normally a good hypothesis must be very simple to understand. It shouldn't be a complex thing, and it should be very formally connected to the research area. So I need your input in this area.
Yeah, so very well, four aspects explained by Madam. So yes, any good hypothesis starts with a question in the mind. For example, what is a creative advertisement? This can be your thought. How do you define an advertisement, a creative advertisement? Or like that, whatever be the question. So it starts with a solid question. Now, once you get the question, we need to do the background work. Is it really testable question, or just like that out of fluke we got something and which is not able to move forward with that question? So then we move forward towards our background check. Background check, previous literature review and all, it will further refine and it will help us in concretizing that hypothesis. Or is it really testable? Is it really worth? Has it already been tested? So all these questions, will be answered with the help of this background research. Then, as Madam said, it should be testable. There are certain abstract terms very difficult to define, and even if you try to define it, the very core may be lost sometimes. So, of course, when you do research, you need to define, you need to have a definition, operational definition. So, once we need to see whether the variables we will be in a position to define it properly. And sometimes it becomes too narrow and we try to quantify too much that the very purpose or the essence is lost and it merely become a quantitative number. So making sure whether it is testable or not. And finally, identifying which one is independent, dependent, which leads to what factors may lead to which variable. So like that, this is the fourth area, madam. Yeah.
Yes. So here I have a few types of this hypothesis. Here we go with the descriptive hypothesis. It will describe, when you fix in research area, you will describe the characteristics of your variables and you try to see whether this variable is able to be tested. For example, like the rate of unemployment among the engineering graduate is higher than the commerce graduates. It's a claim. Okay, so now you're going to check the characteristics of the skills of engineering college students opportunity and as well as the commerce graduates opportunity. So you will verify here the skill set of the both people in order to get a job in the particular domain or a city, or you can say is an area of where they want to get a education, so where they want to get an employment. So it is something like descriptive hypothesis. And next we say rational hypothesis. So rational hypothesis completely test between the two variables where it is to be see whether it is comparable or higher or lesser. So we can say like a family with higher income spend more money for a recreation. Okay. So in this statement, you can see Like the people have more money, they'll start spending more on recreation. The same way the upper class people have few children than the lower class people. It's another climb where you could measure the both, whether it is increasing or decreasing, and you have a comparative study on the both cases. See, normally the research have a two different method of approaching. One must be comparison, another one must be to see the relationship. So only two aspects normally you try to fix these two in the hypothesis. Okay. So here the another one. So increase in the metro service as reducing the pollution rate in city, as I told you before. As Sarah has rightly said, normally you should know what is your dependent variable and independent variable in order to fix this rationalization and analyzing the both simultaneously. Another one is called as casual hypothesis. This casual hypothesis variable, it is comes from your observation. Like, what is the reason for increase in diabetics among the youngsters? Okay, so like that, you will try to climb a particular thing based on the observation and the history or maybe documented details. Based on that, you will climb a casual hypothesis. So, this, for example, the increase in the physical activity lead to an improvement in the overall health. An increase in the mobile attention leads to a low performance in academia. So, like that, you will try to fix it. It's a common and normal. Usually, we can see these are the hypotheses based on our observation. Sir, I need your input in this. Sir, you are in mute, sir.
Yeah. So as rightly classified by Madam, all these hypotheses can be said as a kind of directional hypothesis, where we try to study like which direction the particular distribution is going. For example, the descriptive hypothesis as said by Madam, like unemployment rate among the engineer graduates are higher than, is higher as compared to the commerce graduate. So here we try to understand, describe this particular distribution. For example, like what is the unemployment rate among the engineering students, then compare it, finding the mean, comparing with the commerce graduate, defining what do you mean by unemployment, who can be considered engineering, which branch of engineering, like defining and describing the particular outcome. That is the purpose of descriptive hypothesis, where we are describing the characteristics. The purpose is, the objective is to describe a particular characteristics, explain. Second one, relational hypothesis. As the name itself suggests, we try to study the relationship between the two. Now, there is a difference between the third one and the second one. Causal is different, relationship is different. Two variables may be moving together, but two variables may not be related to each other. So we try to study, is there any relationship between the variables? So when we try to identify that, the relational hypothesis, as described, as said by Madam, for example, increase in metro service will reduce the pollution rate in the city. So one variable increases, the other decreases, whether both are increasing simultaneously or both are affected by something else, the third variable. Like that, when we try to study the relationship between the two, how they are moving. We are not trying to study the causation, only the movement of variable, how they are moving, in which direction, whether reverse direction or in a positive direction or a negative direction. That is what is termed as relational hypothesis. And the final one, as Madam explained, causal hypothesis, where we try to see what, one variable, that leads to the other one. When we try to study the cause and effect relationship, when we manipulate one variable, what is the change or the amount of degree of change in the other variable? So that is kind of causation. This will be used in experimental research mostly. So causal hypothesis is very much needed when it comes to experimental research, but descriptive and all a kind of second stage of the research. So in exploratory research, there may be a limited need for hypothesis, but as we move on the ladder to descriptive to experimental level, the need for hypothesis or the requirement increases. Yeah.
Yes, sir, you
So,
can continue with this, sir.
yeah.
Working
So,
hypothesis.
madam. Right. So, next type of hypothesis as given by madam is working hypothesis. It is a kind of tentative hypothesis. Before entering into the main, like before framing the main hypothesis, you can have a kind of, for example, that engineering graduates and commerce graduate. Now, you can tentatively, you can have engineering versus commerce graduate, that hypothesis, but later on, you can refine further. For example, what branch of engineering, or even a master of engineering is an engineering student, bachelor of engineering is an engineering student, even a person who is doctorate doing doctorate can be considered as an, in the engineering. So when you try to further define, when you try to further clarify it, that you require one more stage of hypothesis that can be termed as working hypothesis. So again, working hypothesis may be needed in a kind of descriptive research or exploratory research, where you try to have a general idea first, and then you try to enter into the particular field and define it after proper calibration. Sorry. Next is null hypothesis. This is a kind of hypothesis, where you say there is no relationship or there is no association between certain variables or two variables. See, students always ask why the null hypothesis. Generally, we are taught at the elementary level that you always start with a null hypothesis. Why we always start with a null hypothesis? Because as per even the natural justice, law of natural justice, we cannot, for example, a person has come to the court of law. Somebody is accused of doing something wrong. Unless otherwise there is a proof, we say that he is innocent. So, in the same logic, when two variables, unless otherwise we get a proof that two variables are connected or there is a relationship, we cannot just like that come to a conclusion that yes, two variables will be related or associated or there is a cause and effect relationship like that. So, that is the base for null hypothesis. Unless otherwise it is proved, you assume that there is no relationship between the variable or no association, both are independent. There is no any sort of relationship. Now, this is null hypothesis. Always we start with that. That's better. Then statistical hypothesis. It is from the sample in a quantitative nature. This is, and we derive. For example, as given in the slide, group A is effective than group B. So we can call it this also a directional hypothesis, where we take one direction. Two classes are there. IQ level of class A is better than class B. So you are taking a chance. You are not saying that there is a difference between class and A, class B, or there is no difference between class A and class B. That is called null and alternate. When you start taking a direction, you assume based on your experience. For example, I go to two classes, assuming I feel that class A has got a better IQ level. Then nothing wrong in framing a hypothesis that class A is better than in IQ level rather than class B. So this is a directional hypothesis, collecting the data, and we will get to know whether our assumption was right or wrong. That's it, madam. Your take.
Yeah, sir. As you rightly said, like working hypothesis could be modified whenever it has been need chances to change. Null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, normally we do it in our research to prove our relationship or maybe the variables association between the two. I have a question, sir. Here, some people frame an hypothesis. Like, for example, there is an association between gender and the perception of online shopping. We take it in that way. So there is a perception between gender and online shopping. Okay. So where you say association word will be used only for a non-parametric test. Is it true, sir?
Yeah. When we use the word association, we are talking about attributes. So when we are comparing the association, we are comparing the attribute of the particular, group of respondents. Whereas when we talk of relationship, it's a kind of perfect variable that we are studying. So for example, a group of society may have certain attributes. So when we are comparing the attributes, the word association is used. That's my take, madam.
Okay, sir. See, some people will say there is a relationship between the two variables. And here, another climb of hypothesis, sir. Normally, I have seen in a book, they will say, for example, it is about a t-test. Normally, t-tests have done for a scaled variable with the categorical variable as normally. Okay, so one must be a categorical variable where it has an options, and the other scale variable comes under the Likert scale. So when you use these two variables at the time of t-test, they say they will check the mean score of both variables. So they will frame hypothesis on it. So what do your concern in that category, sir?
Yeah, madam, that's what generally the word association will be used vis-a-vis certain demographic thing. So attributes, when we say groups have attributes. So if you assume that certain social parameters when you're trying to compare, the word association will come. But when you are talking about specific variables, quantitative variables, then you are talking about relationship. Another way is a kind of association will not, we will only try to identify a kind of broad relationship, whereas when we talk of relationship, we are quantifying that. For example, correlation, we can say that there is a correlation of 0.82, assuming. So we are quantifying. But when we are saying association, we are only saying that there is some sort of connectedness is there or not. We cannot quantify that this much association is there, 90%, 80% like that. So in my take, attributes are associated and perfect variables are correlated or relationship is studied.
Okay, sir. So we'll go with another type, sir. It is in common sense hypothesis and finally complex hypothesis. These are the two hypotheses which is left. Common sense hypothesis completely based on our own observation and our own understanding towards seeing the variable in a right sense. Okay, so this is comes under the common sense hypothesis. Normally, girls are, this is just a claim I have written, but that is not proof at all. So girls are emotionally strong than men. So it's a kind of hypothesis. Normally, we can have commonly with our knowledge or maybe sometime our observation. So risk-taking level is more in lower class people, that is low class young people, than the upper class people. So this is the very common and common sense observation where it could be connected to our day-to-day life, and we are dwell with it, and we are coming across such situations. So that we climb as a part of common sense hypothesis. Next, we have a complex hypothesis where many independent variable, many dependent variable, which has been, we can say, tested in a same category or maybe tested in the same platform. So that normally you can say as a complex hypothesis. So the propose of relationship between the two or more independent variable with two or more dependent variable. So normally it is increase in the level of social media use and decrease in the sleep duration. It is also becoming as an independent variable. Then it has an impact on a negative impact on academic performance and mental health in adolescents. So normally you have a different independent variable and different dependent variable. So both have been tested in a similar platform. It is comes under complex hypothesis. Normally, this complex hypothesis must be very technically proven because there is a chances to move out from the path, and sometimes one will not be support to other where it supports something else. So complex hypothesis very important to test clearly and give the result accordingly what we have planned. Sir, what is your input in this? Sir, you are in mute, sir.
Yeah, sorry. So common sense hypothesis, when we say, like we are basically talking about source of hypothesis. For example, when we are framing a hypothesis, generally we need to have some backup, like on what basis we have framed that. So certain hypotheses are quite, elementary. So when we are talking from the source of hypothesis, for example, sun rises in the east, and through that, like that, you can develop some other hypothesis. So source of hypothesis, when we are discussing, or when that is the emphasis, common sense hypothesis, which is obvious, right? And complex hypothesis, when so many variables are attached to that hypothesis. So very wonderful excellent example that has been given. So if we closely, minutely analyze this particular hypothesis, so many variables are there. Social media, sleep duration, academic performance, mental health, adolescent, increasing the level, decreasing in sleep duration, impact on performance, like that. So many, when so many complicated aspects are involved, a far-fetched kind of thing we can say, that can be termed as a complex hypothesis. But again, I will say it is a kind of a hypothesis for a model, we can say. But again, we need to test it one by one and then put together into a complex model. So, as I said, complex hypothesis will have various variables and we need to define everything. So here, as I said, social increase in social media. So we are not talking, we are talking about increase. One thing, then social media, decrease in sleep duration. So sleep duration, another thing. Negatively, we are not saying simply impacts. Negatively, again, direction we are showing. So first, increasing direction, social media is a variable. Decreasing direction, sleep duration is a variable. Negative impact, academic performance is a variable. Again, you are adding mental health with a condition of adolescents. So mental health of not everybody, but even adolescent people. So when so many aspects you need to take care of and then fit the model, that can be termed as complex hypothesis. Yeah, madam.
Sir, sir rightly said. We are in the last two slides, sir. Sir, here we have the sources of hypothesis. How to get these hypothesis before you framing and before you getting into that. Normally, the theory says better. So there are many game theory. See, when you say game theory, it is about like when scarce resources and there is a least opportunities there, and the people are more, and how that is being employed and applied in all the resources to make best use of it. So that comes under game theory. With the help of game theory, you can try to fix which is being scarce resources to allocate in a justifiable way. That you have to frame an hypothesis. For example, like the rate of return on capital employed is an index of business success. So that is a theory, and the theory is about employed money and as well as your performance on, and it is also including the performance of money where you have invested. So this is come under the theory of capital based and return on investment. So observation, probably of course any researcher will choose a research topic based on the observation where you want to give some sort of justification to make throw a light on the particular platform where it should explained with the help of proper proof. So observation is also help you out in order to fix your hypothesis. For example, like the increase in cardiologist based issues among age of the people 30 to 40. Okay, so it's an observation. You fix an hypothesis. What is the reason for this 30 to 40 age group of people are getting a problem of cardiologic based issues? So this is from your observation, you can do it. And analogies completely based on your experimental cases. Okay, so that will be maybe when X on Y, Y on X, how it works. Okay, that you will see. For example, in changes in the temperature, how it has impact on your cultivation. So it's a kind of analogy when you check with your increase and decrease level. And intuition, personal experience, this and all will come on based on as my opinion is that, for example, in law and order, in the particular inauguration, so these people will go for their own intuition and personal experimental based hypothesis they may create it. And finding of studies, where one particular finding of a study will derive an hypothesis whether it could be applied in other parts and other areas. Okay, so like we can say the opportunities in abroad, you can say those that study AI. Okay, so whether they do have opportunity in all the countries, like you try to fix your study with other countries when you have chosen a particular country. For example, those who have learned data science, they have an opportunity in America. The same way you try to see the other countries also have equally chances. That way you can fix the hypothesis. And the state of knowledge is, it's completely like, it's when you have a particular fact. So with that factual detail, you try to fix an hypothesis or based on your understanding with other variable. Culture and the continuing of research will, culture is something, a big wide area. So based on that, you will fix an assumption. A culture from one country to another country will keep on varying. So when you choose a variable, you try to see the culture also to be explained in such a way it should not create any ethical issue in that cases. So I request you to continue in this 2 points, sir, and further points, sir.
Yeah, I'll start right from the top, madam. So
Yes, sir.
theory, wonderful. The past theories are the biggest source of your further research. For example, capital, this structure models or dividend models, dividend payment, So there are some people who did studies and they found out something. For example, capital structure, we have net income approach, net operating income approach, traditional approach. So one theory was there. Somebody analyzed it critically and collected the data, and he came out with something new modification. So of course, theory is the biggest source of the what is a hypothesis, because somebody did in his own circumstances, he or she may not have enough resources, or that environment may be different, so you can look at it in a different perspective. So that is how theory is developed. So as I said, capital structure, we had net income approach. It was denied later on, net operating income approach, then traditional approach, then Modigliani and Miller approach, and so on. Even today, so many studies are being done on capital structure and dividend policies. So theory is the biggest source of hypothesis, the past theories. Second one, observation. Of course, a researcher he needs to have a wonderful observational skills. So observation, when you observe something, in your mind you start developing certain patterns. So you think it can be a kind of hunch, as we say, that yes, we think this may lead to that, or this could be the reason for this happening. So when you observe something, it may be just a biased observation, we do not know, but at least with the help of hypothesis building and testing, we can identify something new. So observation again, patterns of looking at things in certain way. Analogies, I can say that certain studies that are being done in other field, why can't we adopt in our field also, or what do we can we really adopt that particular theory in other field in our theory. So analogy, you try to bring the close to certain things. So can we use it, can we use it as a replica, can we apply that particular concept in our study? That can be called as an analogy. This can be a source of hypothesis. Certain, for example, in sociology, something might have been done. So why can't we apply that in entrepreneurship? Can it, does it really work in that way? Right? So analogy can be another source of hypothesis. Intuition and personal experience. So similar to observation, but intuition is like, even though you have not observed, you may feel that this could be. But again, this can be proved only by data. So intuition, you feel over a period of your experience that this may be due to this. For example, crime and all, most of the law maintaining agencies, they will have the intuition, like this could be the reason. Even though they may not have proof, they may go in that direction and end up getting the proof, right, for certain cause and effect relationship. So intuition and personal experience over a period of time. For example, teachers, when over a period of time when we teach, we can make out just by looking at the eyes, we can make out whether somebody is really attentive or not. So over a period of time, we can develop the understanding of a phenomenon. Then findings of the previous studies, yes, certain studies would have been done on that particular field. You can take it forward, you can understand, you can negate those studies, or you can accept, or you can add something more. So previous studies can be a source of, hypothesis. State of knowledge. What is the existing state of knowledge? As we said, for example, vis-a-vis motivation. So many studies are being done. So people are looking the same motivation from different perspective. Starting from Maslow's, McGregor, it is actually the same thing, looking from different perspective, right? So what is the present state of knowledge, and how do you look at it in a different perspective? Of course, culture is very critical. It not only tells how people behave in a particular fashion, but even how do you look at it, certain aspects. For example, certain things may not be considered as odd in certain environments or certain countries, but whereas in certain other countries that can be considered as a taboo. So even cultural practices can raise certain questions. For example, in foreign countries and all, only in India we have got the habit of calling sir and all those things. There they call by name. So if a fellow, here, if a foreigner comes and they call, so they may think that he is disrespectful to that particular guy. So even cultural aspects, how do you look at certain things, will define, or help you in developing the hypothesis. Then you are continuing with research. You might have done something previously, some studies you would have done. Now you are taking it forward. You are adding some more variables. You are doing it in a new context with more sample size, so on and so forth, right? So these can be termed as the sources of hypothesis, right?
Please continue, sir. The
Right,
writing hypothesis in research.
right. So how do you write the hypothesis? Obviously, as we discussed previously, identify your factors or variables. First we need to identify, as we saw in that complex hypothesis, we identify variables. So first identify the variables, then establish the relationship. For example, same example I can take: impact, negatively impact. Increase in something will lead to decrease in something. It will have a negative or positive impact. So first identify the variables, then try to establish what kind of relationship, defining the relationship those variables might be having. And then you can create a complete hypothesis using, for example, if this happens this way, this will be the outcome, otherwise this may be the outcome. In null hypothesis, it's pretty simple, either more or less. But when you go for directional hypothesis, when you move further, when you call, then we need to develop certain alternate other hypotheses also. It may lead to that. Then, of course, checking the relevance or testability of the hypothesis. For example, is it really relevant, reliable? Is it really valid? Are we checking what we expected to check? Are we going in the right direction? Is it biased or the data is skewed? Can we really go for analysis of these data? So that is how we need to check these things. And finally, when we come to that, is it really close to our objectives? Again, there is one wrong notion that hypothesis should be accepted or should be rejected. No. As I said, it gives an idea. Even if it is rejected, it gives an idea. It was a wrong variable that I have selected. It does not lead to this, or this is not connected with this. Let us go for some other variable. So even disapproving of hypothesis is a research. You have come out with something new, that yes, at least we need not touch this variable. Already we have tested. Let us look for some other alternative variables. Sorry. So then finally aligning with your research objectives, and that's how we go about. Yeah, madam.
Yes, sir. So I want to add, sir has rightly said, first of all, you should know your factors. For example, let me take two factors about CSR, corporate social responsibility activities. It has been very important. It's an hot cake for all the concerned or looking into that, spending in the right perspective. I mean to say, my research, my PhD thesis was about like ethical ideology of an individual, how far it supports to the CSR practices. Okay, so it has been taken as two different variables. My independent variable is about ethical ideology, and my dependent variable is about like CSR activity, how they consider that, what is the perception towards that. Okay, so these are the two different variable I have chosen. And I'm trying to fix the relationship. Like whether in the ethical ideology, I have two different variables where it comes under idealistic and realistic. Okay, so idealistic the people, those are they are called as they trust the universal truth. When the realistic people, they believe on their own values and their own belief. Okay, so this is the two different aspects. I have tested the variable, how they are connected and they are performing and how they are looking into that CSR practices, which has been asked to be done. Okay, so they formulate the hypothesis. I have did. Those are highly realistic. They are doing CSR really good. They are highly idealistic. They are really doing CSR good. So like I have made it to both the positive direction, but somehow it has come in different way. So the people are being realistic. They are have a negative correlation with the CSR. The people are idealistic thought. They have a positive correlation with CSR. So like we're testing the variable with relevance, like how it has been impact the people. Okay, and the same way I have chosen my objective. Obviously, let's see like manager perception towards CSR. So this is I have chosen and I have proved in that cases. So whatever the hypothesis you choose, the independent and dependent variable is very important to be address your objective. Sir, you want to add and shall we go for the next slide, sir? So step to proceed with testing of hypothesis. As you said previously, I need you to give your input in the same, sir.
Yeah. So as usual, we start with null hypothesis or alternate hypothesis. Then we check the level of significance. For example, how strict we want to be in accepting or rejecting the hypothesis. You know, as they say, 1% level of significance, 5%, even 10% you take in certain social science studies and all. 1% very rare, you are too strict, you end up rejecting the hypothesis. 5% is generally accepted now. 10% also I have seen in certain studies, but the more you increases that level, the more chances that you end up accepting the wrong hypothesis. Then identifying the test. So depending upon the nature of variable, depending upon the objective, depending upon the kind of relationship you want to test, you go for certain tests. For example, if you want to check the relationship, you can go for correlation. If you want to know the significance of difference, you can go for t-test or ANOVA, like that. So identifying the relevant test. Then you go the decision rule. Again, vis-a-vis like decision rule in the sense that p value we can say, or we can say what will be the ultimate result, comparing it with your expected level of strictness, with how confident you want to be with respect to the outcome. And then you go for final thing. You arrive at, you analyze the sample, and then you take a call: should I reject or should I accept the hypothesis? Yeah, man.
Yeah, sir. So as Sarah has rightly said, this is a process how you have to frame and bring down your hypothesis while testing and proving the same case. As it said, sometimes when your null hypothesis acceptance is also really good. See, when you get COVID negative, it is really good. That when you test it, it's okay. So this is how you have to take it. Whether all the hypotheses need to be rejected, it is not mandatory. Certain hypothesis really it is a call whether why it is getting rejected. See, there is a study has done like if all of a sudden the female employees, those are unmarried, okay, if do they get a bonus of 1 lakh, okay, what is their intention to spend? Okay, so how they will like to spend, where which platform they ready to spend their money for, as 1 lakh they receive as a bonus apart from the salary. So the study has made hypothesis they will be going for saving. Okay, so this is there is the majority of the money or majority of the bonus will be given for savings or maybe some sort of investment. Okay, but this hypothesis was failed. Okay, most of the female wanna go for a what do you say, tour. Okay, so they want to spend the money in traveling. So that was the result has come. This is how sometimes your hypothesis maybe get rejected or maybe accepted. So it is depend upon your research and the respondent, and obviously which want to prove and what new thing that you want to show in your research. So with this brief note, we have come to the end of the session. If you have any doubts, please, if you have any queries, you can ask.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. Good evening, ma'am, and good evening, sir. Sir, this is Vijay Narayanan. I have two doubts. One is hypothesis is necessary for all our journal writing or PhD thesis. Is it mandatory? Number one. Number two, if so, is there any ideal numbers like we have to have, we have to have five hypotheses or seven hypotheses or something like that? Thank you.
Yeah, madam. After you.
So obviously, sir, your point is really good. So some people will claim for a social science when the hypothesis is just an opinion. So how it could be proved, and even though it is proved, it cannot be generalized. Okay, so that is a problem in social science. But in experimental study, hypothesis is completely important and it has a significant impact on the results. Okay, so that is my opinion in this case.
Yeah. So, in as madam said, exploratory study, we need not have a hypothesis. It's just an idea. See, only when we have some idea, tentative idea about the variables, we can have an assumption. For example, you are entering into a jungle. You do not know. You don't have GPS, anything. You can assume there will be a river after 2 kilometers. Nothing wrong. So you don't know anything. You can assume anything. So for a exploratory study, if you have hypothesis, it's fine. You can say you are getting some moisture feeling, so there could be river after 3 kilometers or something like that. There may be some river flowing or there may not be. So in exploratory, when you do not know what is going to come, no need, even if you have no idea, no problem, nothing. But when you start describing, when you know certain, when you know the typology in technical term of the research, then it is better to have a hypothesis because already you have some idea. Now your purpose is to go to the next level of that particular idea. So in that case, as madam rightly pointed out, my take is in experimental research, it is must. In descriptive research, we should have. Exploratory research, it's up to us whether we go or we should not go. And the second question, how many hypotheses? The number of variables you are having, the number of relationship you want to study, the type of objective you are having, that will define the number. There is no perfect thing. And even we can combine certain hypotheses. For example, certain research work I see. For example, you are measuring consumer satisfaction. There is no significant difference between age and consumer satisfaction. Second, there is no significant difference between, the consumer satisfaction level across the income. Then they will have like that demographic itself, they will have 10 hypotheses. Then they will go to other. Rather, we can combine. We can have one hypothesis. There is no significant association or there is no significant difference in consumer behavior, for example, across different demographic factors. Then one by one we can test and we can prove, okay, age, there is a relationship or there is a significant difference. Income, no, like that we can have it. But as of there is no particular number, that is my take. It depends on objective, the kind of variables you are having, and the nature of your questions that you are asking. Yeah.
Thank you for the question, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, we are in the end of the session. Shall we wind up? If we don't have any further questions.
Yeah, I'll add few more things, madam. For example, with respect to hypothesis, certain things should be kept in mind. We need to avoid certain pitfalls. For example, just 2 minutes I will take, then we'll wind up. For example, confusing, as I already said, correlation with causation. And poorly defined hypothesis may create trouble for us. Sampling. See, hypothesis can be wonderful, but if your sampling things are not great or not properly, scientifically followed, again, it may create certain confusion. Some research scholars go for that confirmation bias. For example, if they have assumed something, they will collect data or they will approach in such a way that they want to confirm that particular thing. That can be avoided. Too much emphasis on p-value can be avoided. Then over reliance on statistical significance and all those things can be avoided. One more thing, if our hypothesis is wonderful, it should be replicable. So again, we can check whether we can replicate. That is why they do know that in reliability analysis also test, retest or something like that. Are we getting the same answer or we are going nearer to the same answer? Then we can say it's wonderful. And even certain ethical factors we can take into account while framing the hypothesis, or certain ethical issues. That's my take, ma'am. That's it.
Yes, sir. You rightly pointed out. See, when you frame an hypothesis, must be realistic and must be measurable. Should answer a social responsible testing where your research should have a contribution to the core value of any part. So, rightly said, sir. Thank you for your input, sir.
Ma'am, can we propose the vote of thanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Participants, is there any doubts? Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can we wind up with the session?
Yes, please.
Yes. It's my pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. At the outset, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the University of Madras, Department of Commerce, Madras University Commerce Alumni Association, and Sri Shankar Lal Sundarbai Sashun Jain College for Women. A heartfelt thanks to our speakers of the day, Dr. Haridayal Sharma sir and Dr. A.S. Nagalatha ma'am, for spending their valuable time in providing the valuable insights about hypothesis framing and testing. We also extend our gratitude to our convener and program director, Dr. R. Shanti ma'am, Professor and Head, Department of Commerce, University of Madras. Program Director, Dr. A.G. Vijayanarayanan sir, DG Vaishnava College for Men, Chennai. We would also like to thank our beloved Principal ma'am, Dr. S. Batmavati ma'am, Vice Principal Dr. S. Rukmani ma'am for their constant support and guidance. A special thanks to our organizing committee, Dr. C.K. Deepa ma'am, Associate Professor and Head, PG and Research Department of Commerce. Ms. Preeti Rose, Full-Time Research Scholar, Department of Commerce, University of Madras.
Hello.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Nothing, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. This session on hypothesis testing was really an eye-opening session for all the researchers. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir.
Yeah, please fill in the form.
Dear participant, you have posted a feedback link in the chat box. Kindly fill the feedback link so that you'll receive the certificate within a week. Thank you for your patient listening and wonderful participation. Have a happy weekend. See you in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yes, sir.